Thursday, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Pundit Pundit. My name is Scott Morgan. We're at the Motor City Mad Mouth. You have a double header tonight. Fire Up will follow us after this broadcast. Meanwhile, we have a really good show lined up. And if you looked at the title, O.J. Simpson is long gone. That's where we're starting. But before we get to the business at hand with the topics, let me introduce the crew. George Eichhorn, welcome back.
Hey, from the Motor City, it's good to be back on, Scott, and all you guys and gal.
Thank
you. All right. And Jeremy Ballrick.
Good evening, everybody. Happy to be chiming in from north of the Motor City.
Yeah, a little bit north of the Motor City. Okay, and Candy Ebling down here.
I'm in nice, warm South Florida. Welcome, everybody, and glad to be here.
And I have a feeling we're going to have an active chat room. And last but not least, the sniper himself, Denzel Snipes.
No else is in warm South Florida. Scott Morgan. Oh, wait a second. Y'all must know something I don't.
What? What? I don't know. Talk to us.
Way over your head, Unc. Way over your head.
Everything's way over my head. All right. So, all right. Well, I'll tell you what. There might be a little carryover from last week. I have a feeling there will be. But with that said, yes, I'm the Motor City Mad Mouth now in charge of the Pundits Pundit, but my right-hand man is Denzel Snipes. Some things never change. Of course, I always have a phenomenal crew anyways alongside of me. Jennifer Lewis will come on from time to time as well. So this is what you have. This is what you're going to get. And right now, I'm turning it over to Mr. Snipes.
We got a loaded show, so let's get to it. Quite possibly, inarguably, the news of the day, and that is the passing of Orenthal James Simpson. To those of you out there who are of the younger generation, here's your introduction to him, because I know that in recent years he kind of been the butt of some jokes and some puns and whatnot, but he did have a career in the NFL. He played from 1969 to 1979 with the Bills and the San Francisco 49ers. He was a former most valuable player and offensive player of the year, 5-time first-team All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowl, first ever to rush for 2,000 yards in a season, and one could argue that his is the most impressive because he did it in 14 games. He was a rushing yards leader for 4 years of his career. He made the All-Anniversary team. He also was a Heisman Trophy winner. And now for the part that you probably don't remember because you were little tykes when this happened, but there was a little something called the trial of the century from like 94 to 96, and it was huge, and it was regarding a double homicide of his former wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her her friend, Rongoldman. He, of course, was found, shockingly, not guilty. He was acquitted of all charges and everything after it was about an 18-month-long trial. Actually, I watched the verdict from my classroom, my English class in middle school. He's been a subject of much controversy. There's been conspiracy theories. There's been all different avenues of who might have done it if he was innocent and everything. But I want to start off, and we'll start off with Candy and get your thoughts about this man overall playing career and his off the field. He's got one could argue his off the field issues is one for the books. Go ahead.
All right, Candy. Before you go ahead, though, let's just make sure we address the chat as much as we possibly can because these guys have been waiting all day to let things out.
Time.
So you got Joshua Doris smoking. All right, there you go. I'm not reading them. We can see them. And we will read certain ones. Okay, there you go. If the glove don't fit, yeah, there you go. That's one I'm sure we'll get to.
Yeah, bear in mind that Candy, this man had the Avengers for a defense team. Go ahead.
Yes, what money can buy sometimes, right? Ooh. Let's face it. He had a great NFL career. He won the Heisman Trophy while he was at USC. He also started an acting career when he was at USC. He appeared on Medical Center. He was on The Klansman, the Cassandra Crossing, The Towering Inferno. He was in the miniseries Roots. After retiring from football, he actually starred in 3 Naked Gun movies and the comedy Back to the Beach and more. But on June 12th, 1994, his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend were found murdered outside her Brentwood condo. Simpson, who had pleaded no contest to a domestic violence charge against her when they were married, was considered a person of interest in the killings and charges that were filed against him. Instead of turning himself in, a media spectacle erupted when he attempted to flee in his white Ford Bronco, and the police followed him in a slow-speed chase. The televised chase on June 17th drew an audience of some 95 million people. The chase for them to catch him. The ensuing trial then became a media circus, and Simpson was found not guilty for the two murders. But in 1997, Goldman's family brought a civil suit against Simpson, and he was found liable for the wrongful death and battery against Goldman and battery against Nicole Brown Simpson. He was ordered to pay $33.5 million in damages. He later served almost 9 years in prison for robbery, kidnapping, and other counts in a Las Vegas sports memorabilia scheme and was released in 2017. From what I've heard, Goldman's father is still trying to go after that money that he was only paid like pennies, very little amount of it.
I just read it. They're going after the rest
All
of
right,
it.
let me make one comment first, okay? I have an "Are you crazy?" moment to address. Joshua Dorr Scott isn't having it with the chat tonight. Okay, Joshua Dorr, you ready? Everybody speak after me. Are you crazy?
Are you
Joshua
crazy?
Dorr, you
Are
ever
you
heard of
crazy?
observing? And let me tell you, Jacob Christer's not on here, okay? But you know what? How many times have I said to him, "Are you crazy?" Joshua Dorr, are you crazy? Called sponge, observe, go with the flow. I got a lot of work to do to mentor Joshua Dorr. All we need to do is make sure the Florida Fried Chicken has the guts to come on and get mentored. So are you crazy, Joshua? I'm watching it. All right. Indeed, I am. All right. Are you crazy? There you go. Now he admits it. Didn't take an apology this time, though. So at least he knows. He's learning.
So,
And I know
Mr.
I'll guarantee that by tomorrow, he'll definitely say, I'm crazy. All right, continue.
So the question, Joshua Dorr, you put on here, if the glove doesn't fit, but I bet you the glove did fit now. Was he guilty? Yes. But hey, he had his day in court. They found him not guilty. So what are you gonna do? But in the court of opinion, I bet you everybody thinks he was guilty. At this point, it really doesn't matter. Now the question is, who deserves whatever money he did have left? He did have kids. He did have grandchildren. So there are family to consider. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this one. I don't think justice was served the first time. So that's, I guess, where I'll leave it.
Well, I do know that in the years since, Ron Goldman's father had become just so consumed with vengeance. He publicly said that, everywhere I go, this guy's going to see me. He went after his book. And as you alluded to, Candy, he's now going after his estate. I don't know. It's kind of one of those things where, because even people came out and said like, hey, I'm sorry what happened to your son, but at some point you got to move on. That vengeance is going to eat you up. Now, I'm not here to give a 10-minute soliloquy on life and how vengeance can hurt you or anything like that. That's your pastor's job if you believe in somebody. Okay. But what I think is going to transpire in the next year is just a litany of controversy surrounding his death and the remaining of his estate. But I want to pass it on to Officer Ball right down there. What's going on, buddy? And give your thoughts about O.J. Simpson.
What was Ron's last name again? Was it Goldman?
Goldman, yeah.
I don't think O.J. actually killed Nicole. I think he was trying to castrate him and her throat got in the way.
Oh.
I'm just saying. They say the glove don't fit it and you must acquit. all that stuff going on. We all know if he wasn't guilty, he wouldn't have been running.
Yeah,
That's all there
That's
is to
true.
it. You don't run if you're not guilty.
that's fair. That's very fair.
Okay.
I understand. You don't run if you're not guilty. That's all I have to say about that part of it. Now, as far as his passing, my condolences and prayers go out to his children and grandchildren that are surviving this, because that is the bigger issue right now. I understand that Ron Goldman's dad is mad and everything else, but Denzel, you kind of said it right. Go make it right with whoever you need to, whoever you believe in. Get on your knees, ask for your forgiveness for being a hateful person, because at some time you have to let the anger go. No matter what happens in your life, no matter who crosses your path, you have to forgive them. If you slap me, I'm to turn my other cheek.
You're too
That's
far.
all there is.
You're too far to slap, but don't worry about it.
Joshua Dorr says, thanks for the lesson. Where's rocket scientist tonight? Oh,
Not here yet. But
damn.
don't worry, Jeremy. I'll be in Detroit where I can do it.
Right.
Yep. I was gonna go somewhere with this one. Oh yeah, and not to mention that the chase that happened, and Candy actually reminded me. It was, I believe, Game 3 of the NBA Finals, Rockets and Knicks, that they cut away from for the chase, and 95 million people. Mind you, at the time period, the United States population was like 260 million. So, like, that's about I'm no mathematician here, but that's almost a third or something like that. Like man, that is insane. Almost half of the nation's tuning in. But with this whole thing and I love how he alluded to his family, because we've said this about the whole R. Kelly thing, about the OJ thing. There should be no reason why the family suffers, you know what I mean, for the mistakes of their predecessor. Now, I understand if they were in on it, but if they're just trying to live their lives, you kind of leave them out of it. But I don't know. And you know what? That's another thing about this trial is you may think he's guilty, you may think he's not guilty, but two things can be true. One, OJ had a hell of a defense team. Number two, the prosecution made mistakes. They actually kind of had it ironclad, but, number one, Christopher Darden made him try on the glove against Marshall Clark's wishes. Number two, Marshall Clark called up Mark Furman to the stand. That ruined everything. He was exposed as a crooked racist cop. So to a certain extent, they kind of had the case in the bag. But when you have, when you make a young mistake, because I thought about it. I said, you know what? Christopher Darden was pretty young. And O.J. Simpson's got, grandmasters over there, so for a defense team. So, but I get it. He needed his experience, but mistakes were made, and they knew better, But I want to go to George Eichhorn here and get your thoughts about O.J. Simpson, his career, and his off the field issues.
Well, I was kind of surprised. I did not know that the cancer was spreading as rapidly as it was. I thought it was a joke this morning when I saw something posted by former Detroit sports reporter Bob Page on X, and he made a stupid joke about Simpson and Goldman, which I did not appreciate. I will not repeat it. Bob, sometimes you got to take the foot out of your mouth, Mr. Page. So at the University of Southern California, I wasn't following college football as much as I probably should have back then, but I'll never forget, and some of you older folks might remember this, when comedian Bob Hope would host specials on NBC. And at the end of the year special around Christmas time, he would get the all-American team together, and they would run out individually and stand next to Bob Hope, and they would say something like, "I'm O.J. Simpson, University of Southern California." And then Hope would crack a joke or try to. And I'll never forget that when OJ ran out there with his USC uniform on, and that was something that will stick in my mind forever. The other thing was he was part of ABC's Monday Night Football. And now there was a lot of people moving in and out. Alex Karras, as you guys know, Don Meredith. They loved getting the former players in there, and they did have OJ in there for a couple of years, I think. And after that brilliant career in the NFL. And Scott, I think you probably know this, but I mean, when he went over that 2,000 yards, that was unbelievable. And we're covering the NFL at that time, you and I,
Right.
and just a great career. And I know you're going to talk a little bit about your recollection because you have a good one. And of course, from Buffalo for 9 years. And just as a little aside, his owner lived in a very wealthy part of Detroit called Lake Shore Drive in Grosse Pointe. So Ralph Wilson had a mansion. And I bet you any amount of money that there must have been times when OJ slipped into Detroit to have dinner with Mr. Wilson because they were very close. As you know, he had a fantastic career with the Buffalo Bills, and Wilson made his home in Detroit. So that's kind of an odd couple of things for you. I'm not going to get into the whole trial and everything that happened and all that. You guys have talked about that already. I'm not one here to say this was right, that was wrong, and all that fun stuff. But you are right. He lost a baby. Aaron drowned at age 2 in the family swimming pool in 1979. And you guys are spot on. There's children, there's stepchildren, there are family members. He was a real person, okay? Even whatever we decide our minds say about the trial and the killing or whatever. But yes, he has left behind children that now are without a dad or a granddad, a brother or brother-in-law, whatever. So, and a son. So that's my take on it. Like I said, I mean, he was larger than life. The movies he appeared in and the TV shows and the commentary on Monday Night Football. That's what I got on it, Dens.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I swing it to Scott, one thing about him as a person back during his playing days, the day that he crossed 2,000 yards, first time ever, did it in 14 games, 2,003 yards to be exact. He refused to be interviewed unless he had the entire offensive line interviewed with him. And he proceeded to thank each and every one of them on the air and credit them. Didn't talk about himself. He talked about how good his offensive line was that made it happen. So that was the type of guy he was during his playing days. But last but not least, because I know he's got some stories or two, per his request, Scott, take it away. Your thoughts and times on O.J. Simpson.
O.J. Simpson's legacy is going to be where you think a lot of the bad because of the double murders. And I get that. Due process, whether we like it or not, was served because he got a non-guilty verdict. Now, when he had those later problems in Las Vegas and he ended up going to prison for a while, I get the feeling that Las Vegas was doing what LA didn't do and put him away for whatever they did. Now, he didn't have as good a lawyers there and all that, but I'm not going to get into that, okay? Because here's what I'm going to get into. You talk about the fact that he was unselfish about the 2,000 yards. And I'll tell you what, I covered a Miami Dolphins Monday Night Football game at the Orange Bowl. Howard Cosell is a guy that I truly cannot stand, and a lot of people cannot stand. I approached Cosell for an interview, and that guy turned me down. He came across as a complete jerk. Okay, and I could get a lot worse than that, but I want to try to keep it very real because if this indeed is a general audience, okay, I'm not crossing the line. So who did I turn to next? Yes, O.J. Simpson. I went to O.J. Simpson and asked him, do you mind if I talk to you for a few minutes? And he said, absolutely not. I have no problem with it at all. And he was very nice to me. Very, very nice. He saw me as a young reporter, okay, just trying to break into the business. And I think we talked for 5 or 10 minutes before a Monday night game. And it was one of the best interviews I've ever had. And actually, I learned a technique back then about asking the same question 4 or 5 times, and he gave me 5 different answers. Wow. So that was a tactic I learned even then as a pup. But he was nice to me. I have no complaints. Like anything else, it's easy to find the bad people And a lot of people on social media and everything are going to do it. Today's the day to just pounce on them. And I've seen it, and I've tried to minimize it because I understand both sides. I know there were 2 deaths that obviously occurred as a result of Mr. Simpson. I know about Ralph Wilson. He's also one of the nicest guys in the world because I've actually met him at Super Bowls as well. So, OJ, all I can tell you is this, okay? Everybody that's met you probably has seen a lot of different sides, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But at a time when I needed you early in my career, I saw the good. And I'm very thankful that you gave me an opportunity to learn, and at least you treated me right. I believe he's in my book. I'm almost quite certain he is. So, you know what? Do I believe that he killed those 2 individuals? One would think that all the evidence is leaning towards it, but by the same, and the civil case, I don't care about the civil case. I mean, it is what it is. You know, nobody was going to collect all that $33.5 million anyways. Whatever they could get out of it, they were going to get out of it. Do I think so? You know, I would lean towards yes, but you also still have to go with due process that he was given a non-guilty verdict, and I can only go by with the verdict that was handed down.
True.
And again, when he went to Las Vegas, to say vindication might have taken LA off the hook. But you guys are right. LA lost that case because of bad police work. That case was there to win. But you know what? We talk about Batman having the Joker and the Riddler. Well, I'd like to think that the LA Police Department maybe had a couple of those characters too, the Joker and the Riddler. And that's what botched the case. It doesn't hurt when you have great lawyers as he did. So, you know, rest in peace, OJ. I knew this was going to be a very tough topic. When I heard about it, it was one thing. But when I saw that he got cancer in February, then he died 2 months later, you kind of wonder, wow, this is pretty quick. Did he have it a lot sooner before it was diagnosed? And I've had 2 prostate operations myself, not because of cancer, but I've had them. So I understand the area of the body for which they do occur, and they're very painful surgeries nonetheless. So you know what? Rest in peace, OJ.
And you know, you're right on something, Scott. Is he did have a trial, and that's a right that you have in this country. He had his trial, and the decision came out the way that it did. That's the purpose for having a trial, you know. And as far as the police work, I think less Joker and Riddler and more Chief Wiggum and the Three Stooges, because that was terrible.
Yeah.
That was horrible. But then again, I'm going to reserve my thoughts as far as that police department. Anyway, moving on to the next topic, and
well,
that
let's go to Grandizer. I think OJ was part of the sport crew that called the game when the Bears lost to the Dolphins on Monday night, which prevented the Bears from going undefeated 19. Well, if that's the case, well, more power to them, you know. But I don't know. I want to make sure we get to all the chats, Denzel. So I'm putting you in charge of that department as well.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. He's just calling out Dusty, saying how he's doing and everything. But we'll move on to our next topic here. Good evening. And that is the future of NCAA women's college basketball. Will it continue an upward trend, or will it fall off now that Caitlin-Clark and Angel Reese are going to the WNBA draft? And my honest opinion on this one is I think it will continue an upward trend because phenoms come and go. We've talked about them, Scott, on Basket Bros. Right. You know, not everyone's going to play for, you know, you can't even, someone lucky enough to live 100 years, but you'll play for what, like 15 of them? Like, phenoms come and go, and the game evolved because Clark and Reese weren't the only great players to have come across. There was some woman named Maya Moore once upon a time. Remember her? There also was a Rebecca Lobo. Remember her? There also was Elisa Leslie. Remember her? Like all these other ones before. And, Con was hoping Caitlin would go Big Three. She actually would have been paid more to go to the Big Three, but I think she turned it down because she wants to revolutionize the WNBA, which is a bigger message.
Not only that, though, she wants to go out there, pursue her dream, getting an Olympic gold medal and playing in the WNBA. So, yeah, the way Denzel, you're right on target. I read the whole thing. An Olympic gold medal for a female is very important because for many years they didn't have pro basketball. You didn't have it. So that was always what they played for, and they were able to stay a lot longer. So yeah, you know what? The big three, I believe she could have gotten paid $5 million to do
$5
it
million.
and played some WNBA games. But Caitlin-Clark, to me, knows that if that opportunity is any good down the road, she'll take it. But the timing just isn't there.
Yep, it isn't there right now. And you're right, long before the WNBA, the absolute pinnacle was the Olympics. If you got selected.
Right.
Outside of that, your senior year of college, that was it.
Right.
That was it. And maybe you went to go coach, but you weren't playing anymore.
Right.
And so
overseas.
Yeah, or go overseas, But yeah, like the Don Staleys and all who played like before there was a WNBA, But I want to start off with Candy because you're on Chicks and Salsa. I'm sure this has come up and everything, but let's get your thoughts about this because, like I said, this was an easy answer for me, and that's no. I don't think it's going to tank because it won't be long before the next, college basketball phenom comes along. But your thoughts?
Of course, Candy, you have to realize you just muted. You muted yourself. It wasn't me this time. I don't know how to do it.
You have to realize a couple years ago, Caitlin-Clark, we didn't know who she was.
Nope.
And women's basketball in the collegiate level started its ramping up. And yes, it got more excited because there were bigger storylines. Her breaking records and stuff like that obviously brought more attention to the game. But what I find very interesting is that more people watched the women's final than the men's final. And that speaks volumes, I think, because that has never happened before. So do I think just because Caitlin-Clark was in this final that next year no one's going to watch it? No way. No way. Will it have the same storylines? No. But I still think it is growing and people are excited to see basketball. If you're a true fan, you're going to keep watching. And if you're a young woman and you want to pursue that, you're going to be watching. And I think it's brought more of an excitement to the game and more attention and more people playing it. Because let's face it, basketball, there are a lot of sports that are very expensive to play. Your equipment, everything like that. Basketball is one of those that it is not. And so a lot of kids can play basketball and fairly cheaply. Like, whereas any other sport, hockey, you're buying, skates, you're buying this, you're buying that. Tennis, you're buying, there's more equipment to buy. Basketball, there isn't. So I think, and let's face it, there has been an increase in knowing about one's health and in like football, contact sports, the collisions and the safety of young kids. Basketball, you don't hear about those things. So I think more kids will be encouraged to play the game. I think that'll automatically help keep and propel that sport, especially to the collegiate level. So I think this is just the start of where it's going. I don't think this is the cap.
All right, you know what, Denzel? I want you to bring up Orlando's point here at the bottom. This is an excellent one, and I want to talk about this for a moment. UConn not winning it every year is a real reason. NIL helps women's ball too. Okay, but here's the thing. I'm going to tell you right now, Patsummitt, to me, is the mother of women's college basketball. I don't care. Gino Auriemma, I can't stand the guy. Okay, Caitlin-Clark wanted to play for him, but he didn't want no part of her, not ever got any contact. But here's the thing that you've got to understand about what Orlando put up. This is a great, great thing. I'm glad we have it, okay? Number one, there's more balance in the sport than there's ever been. South Carolina is doing well. Obviously, Stanford, we had Tara Van Derver went out there and retired the other day, and the list goes on and on. So while NIL does help, okay, you're starting to see a lot more balance in the sport than you ever have. And that's why the sport will continue to flourish as it does. They're getting paid bigger TV contract money from the, think about it. Their national championship is on the same even keel here as a men's.
Yep.
And let me even take this a step further, okay, about Caitlin Clark. Once upon a time, we had Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. And I'm only mentioning this because you have an irony here. And I emphasize the word irony. You have a Caucasian white woman named Caitlin Clark, going to the NBA. Angel Reese, African American woman, going to the NBA, right? Okay, in the same year, a la Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. Do you think that these two moving to the next level will elevate the WNBA? Why not? It's a good league that's going to get even better. And I mentioned this on last night's edition of the Sports Exchange that when Caitlin Clark comes out, okay, the Indiana Fever will be on national TV 36 of the 40 games.
No.
Tell me that women's basketball at the college level isn't doing well, and I might as well swallow my tongue because I just gave you a handful of facts that will convince you that it's doing real well. Orlando, I'll tell you what, I don't normally go ahead and handle the chat quote of the day, but that one's going to rank amongst near the top, that's for sure, because you are right. NIL is one thing, but remember what these individuals are doing. You have is unbelievable. Caitlin Clark lost to a team here that was undefeated. You know, South Carolina is good. They're like 109-3 in the last 3 years. If that isn't good, then tell me what the word great is. I don't know. I didn't take a dump pill overnight. Depends on who you talk to, though.
Yeah, no, absolutely with that. And that was a great take right there by our guest in the comment. And
Yeah.
I will say this much, and that is, well, for darn sure, South Carolina, Iowa was way mountains better than UConn, Purdue. I think everyone can agree on that one. I'm
Well,
not
not only that,
I'm not gonna sit there and try to, because at the end of the day the players got to go out there and compete. He made mention to the UConn women, they won like 111 straight or something like that, right? Well, they're just going out there and competing. And I mean, if people like more parity, when you get a dynasty, that's kind of what you don't get. You kind of root for a Philadelphia Eagles to come along and beat the New England Patriots. You see what I'm saying? That's kind of how sports goes whenever you have a dynasty present. Speaking of which, South Carolina is looking at being the next dynasty.
all right, but you talk about that big winning streak getting snapped. Stanford's the one that snapped it.
That's true. Very true.
The coach has just retired, right? She's the one that snapped that losing streak in the first place. And on top of that, Connecticut, all of their games were decided by double digits, okay, in the finals. So, yeah, I mean, let's face the reality. South Carolina didn't have it easy either, but Iowa was tough. I mean, they made it to the finals in back-to-back years. I can't believe I'm talking this knowledgeable about women's basketball, but guess what? It's interesting and it's fun. And I know Megan Price would be proud of me, even though I've never been on a show with her. But I'm actually sounding intelligent about this subject.
But you know what? It's great that you are, Scott, and everybody else on this panel. We're going to move on to Jeremy Barrick here in just a second, but it seems that even with all of this, you still have your critics, like, women shouldn't be playing basketball or whatever. You still have like your critics out there. And to them, I say, listen, if you feel like it ain't for you, don't watch, don't comment. No one comes kicking the remote out your hand when you're watching Love and Hip Hop, which is horrible. But I digress. Jeremy, take it away. Your thoughts about this. Do you think women's ball is going to continue upward, or do you see a negative shift?
It actually should continue upward with the increase of old heads watching basketball. If you think about it, the more people that are at home when those games are played, because they're played at the off times when the men's are on. The old heads are home. All of us in the baby boomer generation and my generation are starting to retire. So we're at home on those off days. What are we going to watch? Fundamentally sound basketball like we used to have.
All right, let me ask everybody in the chat room. How are these chats muted tonight? I'd like to know. We have some technical things there. No, they're not. Are you guys watching? Okay.
Question for Candy is, okay, that's a follow-up question.
So Joshua Dorr, no, Will is not on tonight because he has other plans, so he will not be on tonight. So, and we are not muting the chat. We were just in the middle of a discussion, and the chats weren't talking about what we were discussing, so I wasn't putting the chats up. That's why they weren't up when they were.
All right, go ahead, Jeremy.
I completely agree that Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark going to the WNBA is going to increase viewership there. It won't be as big as it was in the WNBA because it really depends if they end up in the same division or not and have to go
Right.
against each other. Because if they end up in the same division, the ratings for those games will go through the roof.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And with this, and this is what, like, the third consecutive year that the women's national title game was more viewed than the men's national title game. So that should say something. I mean, numbers don't lie, folks. But want to round this out with George and get your thoughts about this.
Well, before you do that, though, I want to address the phone situation, Josh and Rocket Scientist. I believe the reason that noise that you're actually hearing might be my diabetes alerts. I may have had something that went out there and got me past the number. So if you're hearing a beep, 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 at least you know I'm living. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. When it stops beeping, that's when,
things get under control.
Yeah. Go ahead, George. Your thoughts about NCAA women's basketball's future.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up because it is a very important topic. But one fact you cannot overlook still is the fact that, and I mentioned this on the Sports Exchange, okay, the men's game is played in a 60,000 seat football stadium. The women sold out a 20,000 seat Cleveland Arena. So, okay, I'm just stating a fact here that no, they have not eclipsed the men as far as the attendance goes. And I'm just putting that out there because a lot of people think, but they're confused because you must have a football stadium to apply for the NCAA Final Four, which Detroit is getting it again. Other cities, of course, Glendale, Arlington. I mean, all the big football stadiums apply for it, Indianapolis. But I just wanted to point that out. Now, I could go back to the days of when I first followed women's basketball, and that was obviously with the WNBA. We had a team here called the Detroit Shock, and they had some great players, Deanna Nolan and Coach Nancy Lieberman. And they were great. Billlaimbeer became the coach. He did a great job coaching the ladies. In fact, he was one of the best coaches in the WNBA. So hats off to you, Bill. And then the other thing that's important to me is the fact, like you guys said, no, it's not going to be a 1 year or a 2 year thing. I totally agree with the panel. This is going to grow. This is an ascension into the sports mainstream. Watching this wonderful sport and watching these very talented athletic women play this sport. And I mean, I could go back to the Ann Myers Drysdale when she was on the women's U.S. team for the Olympics, and they won it all. I mean, that was unbelievable. And she's still involved with sports, with announcing, and with the Phoenix Suns in a role. But all this being said, yes, I agree. You guys nailed this one. We are going to see some ratings go way up, not only in the NCAA women's bracket, but also the fact that the WNBA is going to probably jettison when these young ladies go into the league next year.
Absolutely. And, one thing about the game overall, and as amazing as Caitlin is, well, she lost to the better team. South Carolina is South Carolina for a reason. Put it to you like this, and this also alludes to the topic before we move on here, and that is, on South Carolina, they once had a lady named Aaliyah Boston. She went to the league and got drafted. They didn't miss it. She was considered one of the best players in the nation, if not the best. Went to the league, didn't miss a beat. National champions. That is a team that they got out there. So they're going to be a tough out. But overall, and the panel, of course, chiming in and such, women's college basketball, it's not going anywhere. It's only going to get better. Well, I'm going to pass it now to, let's see here. WNBA is barely profitable. They need them to boost popularity and profitability. It's a start. Yes, it is a start, but also, Orlando, one of the reasons why it's not profitable are the same fans that complain about it. When you don't go to the stadium and buy a ticket and buy merchandise and buy food and everything that will contribute, you're kind of part of the problem. And here's the thing. If you're not going to go to the stadium and contribute, then don't comment on about it saying, oh, well, WNBA ain't making no money. They trash or whatever. I mean, if it's not for you, it's not for you, but you shouldn't speak on it if you're not willing to go to the games and help support them. With that being said, I'm going to pass it on to Candy because we got a station break. Take it away.
Station identification. Okay, there is a red subscribe button. If you see it, that means you haven't subscribed. If you have subscribed, share us and share it to all your friends and family. And why haven't you subscribed yet? I don't understand why. Monday nights, baseball. 108 Stitches baseball talk. Tuesday nights, Inside the Pigskin. All kinds of football talk. Wednesday nights, Motor City Mad Mouth show has been happening lately. It's a one-on-one interview. Scott interviews somebody. It's normally 35 minutes, anywhere to an hour. And then, of course, the Sports Exchange, which has all kinds of sports topics. It could be basketball. It can be football. It could be baseball. It could be cornhole. And yes, I just said cornhole. It's just fun. But anyways, it could even be pickleball. You just never know what we're going to talk about. We even talked about the Masters last night. Tonight, obviously, Pundit's Pundit, and then following will be Fire Up, and you just never know what we're going to talk about because we're always fired up for that show. But more importantly, we have a website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where George, Scott, and Jeremy have all written for us. Denzel, I don't think you have yet, have you?
I haven't yet. It's coming soon. I'm going to think of probably a good 700 worder and shoot it right to you.
Let me tell you, you're a journalism major. There's no reason why you shouldn't write.
Right. I got you. When's coming?
I gave you a subject.
Own it.
You sure did.
Don't worry, JB Ellis did yesterday quite a bit.
I'm going to write it. Candy, let's roll.
Okay. You can always see my pictures there too. But if you like to listen to audio version because you can't, watch TV or driving or something like that, you can hear us on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcast. Then there is something that Scott wrote. Lessons from
I resemble that book.
Tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders. And yes, and George wrote the foreword on that book. Look at all these copies. Isn't that great?
Oh, yeah, I got one too. See, here it is.
Oh, look at that. Scott, where's your copy?
Plenty around the house.
In our hand.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I got it right here too.
There
There
you
you
go.
Covered it up.
We all got one. All
Yeah,
right.
there you go.
But if you
You
don't
guys-
have one of those, that means you need to go to Amazon, Kindle, or Barnes & Noble or Apple Books and get your copy today. You'll be able to see Scott with, a young Tommy Lasorda, a young boxer. And I'm not even going to say who it is because I want you guys to go get the book and find out. And you can always come back to the chat room and let us know if you have them. But
And guess what? Every page isn't filled with words. There's
not many, but there are a couple. But there is all kinds of stories about Scott and his over 40 plus years in the media and how media has changed over the years. So it's a very interesting book. Very interesting. I think that's it for the station identification tonight, Scott, unless you want to add.
Not really. Basically, all you're talking about old school media versus new school media. Everybody can learn from this book, that's for sure. George Eichhorn has way more pictures than I do because he was too lazy. To write enough content, and I had to do it. So, but no, that's okay, George. At least, yeah, 2 pictures you put in of me. One of them I didn't know where it was until I found it in your book. So that's all right. But at any rate, no. The whole idea behind it was really to educate people, old school media versus new school media. So if you haven't been in the media before, you'll learn what it's about. If you are young and learn, it's a good textbook. It's a good read for everybody. So go out there and get your copy if you can. And I'll be more than happy to sign them at some point or another.
I wanted to address Joshua Dorr because he's wondering about Orlando and why he can't see him in your chat. That's because I stream this also to my channel. He is watching it through kneecap biting with the Motor City Lions, and he's commenting on my YouTube. But because I shared it there, it comes up in the stream for us, just like yours does. So he's a real person, and his name is Orlando Escarbano Jr.
Don't expect me to pronounce it. But the one thing I'll say about the guy is he does make some great comments. That's for sure. So he does.
Orlando, I will tell you this. Yes, we did get our press passes for the draft. So we will be live from the draft in Detroit.
4 of the 5 on this panel.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Sorry,
true.
Dan.
Yeah, y'all gonna have to go. I'll come in.
You were at the Super Bowl, so you know.
Yeah. We'll meet up. We'll meet up in New Orleans anyway. You know what? February next year.
You got it.
Yeah, looking forward to that trip too. Candy's never been to New Orleans, so I'll get her there.
Oh, first timer. Okay, not a good way to break her in. But we'll move on to our next few topics, and I'm gonna pass it on to the Motor City Madmouth himself. Take it away.
All right. Well, the first time I was in New Orleans was for the 1982 Final Four when Michael Jordan was there, so that was an incredible tournament to go to. But yeah, I'll take over from here. All right, here's something that obviously is really tough to deal with. James and Jennifer Crumbley got 10 to 15 years in Oxford. And for the Oxford High School shooting that was committed by their son, who murdered 4 students, injured 7, using a gun he had begged for. My gosh. I mean, you know what, though? I believe in my mind, this is the right verdict. Okay, we start off with OJ and now the Crumbleys, okay? But there's a precedent for this. This is the first time I've ever seen parents both get punished for what their son did, and rightfully so. You don't buy the guy the gun or allow him to get it, a few lives are spared. Now the only thing I wonder about down the line is how many other states will take precedent after what Michigan had done. Once upon a time, Michigan invented the seatbelt law, caught on everywhere else, okay? Now you have a precedent and a standard, and the right punishment was served for both of them. Now, they do get credit for jail time already served as well, but they're going to be away from each other for a while in prison. It is due to a divorce that they're apart is because of prison. So with that said, I'm going to go to some of my Michigan people first. And I want to start off with you, Jeremy. Do you think this is a right call that they both got the same punishment for, and does the punishment fit the crime for both?
Well, in all actuality, yes. I believe the punishment fit the crime for both of them. And number one, maybe this will get parents to start parenting again and stop their kids from doing stupid stuff they don't need to do. We have lessened what we do for discipline for our children for so long. So many parents are using the TV or the tablet to babysit their kids. Maybe it's time we all start parenting. Talk to our children. Take the electronic devices away and actually have a family dinner where you find out what your child is thinking. It's about time that this type of law and penalty comes with something like this.
Okay. Candy?
Jeremy, you couldn't have said it better. Basically, this younger generation, and I've been saying this for years, for some reason, parents feel that they have to make it better off for their kids because they had it so bad that they want to give more and more to their kids and so their kids have more and more. Well, the problem with doing that is, first of all, I was raised really well. I don't think, yes, did I have everything when it was brand new? Did I have the best of the best? No. But you know what? I turned out pretty okay. The problem is parents think they need to provide so much. But to be honest with you, the best thing you can do for your kids is spend time with them, not be away. You don't need that. My dad worked 3 jobs, I'll be honest, but that was so my mom could stay home and raise us and be with us and not have to work. And that's priceless. Being able to do that, we were lucky, I admit. But you have to spend time with your kids. You have to teach them to respect people because as a country, we've lost respect. And that's why guns don't kill people. People kill
people. Thank you. Someone said it.
Whether you like gun laws or not. But the problem is it doesn't take the gun doesn't go off by itself. Someone has to do that. Now, the fact that we have taught we aren't teaching as much respect. People think they can do that and there's not as much consequences. They don't care as much. That's part of what the problem is in society. Is Jeremy, you have a right to your opinion. I know you love, and this is going to sound really stupid. He loves the Detroit Lions. I get it. I'm a Green Bay Packers girl, but I still respect him for his opinion. I respect him for following his team. I may not agree with him. And granted, sports teams are not what we're talking about. It goes deeper on other topics, but it doesn't matter because I still respect you for your opinion. And that's where I think our country has failed. And so, do we need to hold people accountable? Yes. Do we need to hold these parents accountable? Yes, because it starts there. My dad was a retired school teacher, and he retired early because he couldn't stand the fact that kids and even some of their parents weren't respecting him as a teacher. And that is sad because most cities, most states, most teachers are not a high-paid job. It is not a high-paid job. And it's a thankless job for most part. And they do their darndest. And yes, are there some bad apples as teachers? I will agree, yes. But for the most part, you need to respect your elders and you need to learn that. And parents, you need to help teach that. And so maybe I took that in a direction I shouldn't have, but I said what I said and I stand by it.
All right, well, you stand by it. And since Denzel was a little loud and animated, why don't you pick that loud and animated up and continue?
All right. I'll actually keep this short. Now, people so far on this panel have blamed the parents, and rightfully so. I'm going to blame the school, and here's why. Because this kid was apparently found caught with ammunition on school grounds. They let him go and allowed him to come back to the school to attend. So there's number one. Number two, toxic parenting. The mother texted the kid when this happened. Jeremy, am I lying? Texted the kid when this happened and said, hey, it's okay. You just got to learn how to not get caught. Let that sink in. Take it away.
Hey, Denzel, on top of that, that is why she's in as much trouble as the father who bought the gun.
Yep.
Is that text right there?
Well, the only thing I'll say to it is we have two rulings that set a precedent. And this is one situation, unlike LA, they got it right. They really did. No faulty police work. It is what it is. All three of them are being punished. Who knows whether they'll be rehabbed or not? I don't think the kid's ever getting out, is he? But the parents probably will. I don't know enough about it. I doubt the kid is. And when the kid has to deal with his new contemporaries, it may not be very fun at all. That's for sure. So go ahead, Jeremy. I know you're chomping at the bit to say something. Go ahead.
He got consecutive life sentences for the people that passed away. So I think they said it's a minimum of 112 years before he's eligible for parole.
Okay, well, in other words, he's not getting out, period, where the parents will. Well, we'll see what happens with them down the road. But it's safe to say that their kid won't be, unfortunately, taking any more lives while he's in there. And if he does, it won't be outside of that situation. It'll be inside of where he's at. And I'm not going any further than that. I know we've talked a lot of crime here tonight, but the topics are what they are. And when you think about OJ and now this, we talk about shoddy police work, and then we talk about the right thing and an unprecedented ruling that I think you're going to see more and more of these cases start to develop as time goes on. So hope everybody ended up getting what they had out of the whole thing. George, what about you? Did you say on this?
No, and I think the verdict was too harsh. I would not have given them up to 15 years. This is new precedent. This was done for the first time ever in United States history. And there will be appeals. I know that. I'm not backing the parents up, but I don't think that the long sentence was as harsh as it was going to be. The thing is that You also have to understand that there are prosecutors, other than this lady in Oakland County, that also go after parents. So it's not really the first time, because in the unfortunate situation where a young man or lady gets the gun, or a child gets the gun that's unlocked in a home, we've had plenty of that in this country, trust me, and a lot of it local here where I live, they do get charged. We have an attorney named Kim Worthy in Wayne County, which is the county that houses the city of Detroit and many other cities. And Kim Worthy has been going after these parents or guardians, whoever, or they could just be acquaintances of one of the potential shooter. But this is not. They don't have these long and important trials like we had with this situation. That being said, no, I would never take my child to a gun range, and he wasn't even. My God, he wasn't even anywhere near being 18 or 21, but yet they went ahead and did that. So there were a lot. The thing that was really bad was there were many, many signs here that just got ignored, like you guys said. I'm not totally sure about the school district. I know the parents of the deceased are probably going to go after school officials, supposedly, or they already have started to lay the groundwork for that with their attorneys. This thing could really open up all kinds of potential verdicts on counselors at the school, the principal, whoever, the teachers. But it's just a sad situation all around, and it really is. It was justified to have them. It's just that I don't agree with the years, but that doesn't matter. They're in jail, and I do agree with that.
All right, now Eddie Prather says 5 years would have been the max.
Wait, Scott, at both trials, prosecutors argued the Crumbleys ignored a troubled son who was in distress and spiraling downward. But instead of getting him help, they bought him a gun.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, honestly, if you know your kids are in trouble, what possessed you to think buying a gun and giving it to your kid was the right thing to do?
Right.
Because let's face it, that's not like a gun like we're gonna go hunting for deer or anything like that. Come on.
Yeah. And then to further pour salt in the wound, it was reported it was reported that while they did express condolences for the families that lost their kids behind it, they never admitted to making a mistake. They never took accountability. That probably drove the judge's decision, or I don't know if it was a bench trial or a judge's trial or anything like that, but or bench trial or jury trial, but yeah, that's probably what drove the decision as well, as far as the sentencing. If you just kind of have this attitude like, hey, listen, I'm sorry you guys lost your children, but I'm not taking no responsibility, or even uttering an apology like you had something to do with it. Yeah, that speaks volumes.
Okay, first of all, back to the chat room. Eddie Prather, 5 years would have been the max. Now, I disagree with you there. 5 years, I don't think would have sent a strong enough message. I see where you're coming from, but we don't always have to agree here. Under Orlando, social skills with kids behind the computer is not there. We learn to act in fear of a punch to the mouth, saying the wrong thing behind the computer. There's none of that. Okay, agreed. All right, agreed. But the reality of the situation is the parents are the ones that the kids depend on the most for guidance. And in this particular case, okay, the guidance was there. Now, obviously, here living in Southern Florida, okay, we had the February 14th shooting of the Parkland, and that was a mess in itself involving a gun. Now, Candy and I went to a funeral where we saw one of the football coaches in his coffin, and if that wasn't the most difficult thing I've ever seen, I don't know what was. So this stuff has got to stop. It really does. And now I know in this particular case with the guy that shot the Parkland people, he didn't have the benefit of the parents that in this particular situation with Crumbley. You know, he was a problem child, but when you put it all in perspective, it's a bad look all the way around. But I do believe the Crumbleys were given the right sentence between 10 and 15 years, and we know the kid never getting out. So, all right, well,
one more quick point. And
sure.
I know I may be the youngest one on the panel. I'll be 42 years old in September. But when all of us on this panel were going to school, if someone brought a gun or ammunition and they were caught, it was immediate expulsion. They didn't come back. They let this kid back. That's why, as far as how the kid turned out, I blame the parents. The shooting, the school. You don't let them back in, that shooting doesn't happen.
Okay. All right. Our final topic of the day won't be as complicated as the last three, but this one here, voters in Jackson County reject the Royals and the Chiefs Stadium funding proposals. Well, you know what? I think it was a 58-42 vote is what it was in favor of. I think the Royals wanted to place downtown. The Chiefs wanted about $800 million in renovations. Chiefs have threatened that they'll definitely go ahead and move or do something unless something gets fixed. You know, I'm going to comment on this one first, okay? First of all, here's what will probably happen. They will move, but they'll move to the across the state line to Kansas. I hear there's a lot more money in Kansas than there is in Missouri. So I wouldn't worry about it. The Kansas City Royals and the Kansas City Chiefs will be fine just on the other side of the border in Kansas. And bear in mind, the Kansas Motor Speedway is in Kansas. So I wouldn't worry about the moves there. But you're talking about something that obviously, you know, affects the both franchises. The Royals can't compete, and the Chiefs are certainly the model franchises with the amount of Super Bowls that they won. So with that said, this thing will get resolved, but I do believe it will be in the state of Kansas, and Kansas City will be the name, just on the other side. Denzel, go ahead.
Yeah, we actually talked about this last night on Sports Business Insider with former agent Sean Russey, and I actually proposed this. Like, is it possible that they stay in the Kansas City metropolitan area and just cross the state line to Kansas? They keep the same name, like you said. They'll just be in KCK instead of KC Mo. But I wanted to go next because in the wake of the voter rejection, you're right, Scott. It was 58%. Dallas Mayor Johnson.
I heard about that. They wanted them to come back to Dallas to be the Dallas Texans.
And alluding to the AFL Dallas Texans. And you should have heard the quotes on the internet saying that's the only way Dallas is going to get a Super Bowl victory. Even the mayor knows the Cowboys are trash. Jeremy, I know you've seen the same thing, but I just thought it was hilarious. It'll never happen. It was just my laugh for the week. But no, I'm with Scott on this one. They're going to resolve this. And it usually takes years before a team relocates. Usually this is like years in the making, like maybe 7-8 years or something like that, you know. Getting new stadiums ain't cheap. It ain't easy, you know, but they'll resolve it. They're smart business people. They'll resolve it. I don't see the Chiefs going anywhere outside of the Kansas City metropolitan area. Looks like, I mean, at worst, Kansas will have the Jayhawks, the Chiefs, the Royals, and the Wildcats at worst.
Yeah, and the Speedway. Don't forget about that either.
Speedway, so that's fine.
Can't forget about our auto racing people, right? Can't do that. So, yeah, I mean, the reality is, and Jerry Jones don't want no part of it because the Cowboy can't sniff a Super Bowl, so it doesn't matter. So he needs to go ahead and deal with, another, never mind. We'll leave it at that. I know Jeremy's now chomping at the bit to go ahead. Of course, Jeremy will be chomping at the bit to do a lot because after this show, him and George Eichhorn, I believe, are headed to Fire Up. So we'll see how fired up Jeremy is when he takes over with this topic.
Well, you know what? I agree. They should just move to Missouri and be done with it. Number one, I mean, to Kansas from Missouri, the property taxes are less than Kansas.
That is true.
So the owners and the players, because their incomes are in Kansas City, Kansas, will make more money because there's no city taxes in Kansas City, Kansas. So therefore, the checks will be printed in another county. The other reason why they're so upset, and this has been years in the making, 5 years ago, they renovated the practice facilities and everything else, and all they did was clean it and throw on a coat of paint.
Out.
That's like spit shining a turd. You can make it all look good and shiny, but when it all said and done, it's still a turd.
Okay. Who's next? Candy? Or no, we'll go to George.
That don't look like candy. Oh, that's George.
No, George.
I have never been against, like some of you might be, or some of our viewers might be, city helping and state helping build stadiums. Okay. I know a lot of people are passionate about that. They don't like it. They don't want them involved, but come on. It's happened left and right, all around the country, all around the world. Taxes have gone up to help these rich owners, and I just don't have a passion for fighting it. I'll be honest with you. We're blessed here in Michigan. We've got 4 teams within several blocks of each other in the downtown area. And yes, we all help pay for that. Okay. Even though I don't live in the city itself, the adjacent counties, such as mine being called Macomb County, there are certain things that have gone up to help. Or we helped the Detroit Institute of Arts stay open, or we helped the Detroit Zoo build a new penguarium or whatever. I'm just saying that I understand that people are passionate about not having the public tax money being used. I'm not one of them. So I'm not going to go against this. I'm not. If they can't do it in Missouri, you're right. They've got to look somewhere else, because if the voters say no, the voters are the ones that are speaking. Now, I know sometimes they try to get around it with their state house, senators and Congress, and representatives, in the capital city of Missouri would try to find other ways to get it. So this isn't over with yet. It's not a done deal that they're going to move out to another, especially to another state. All I'm saying is that if it doesn't get worked out, I do understand that those people did speak and don't want money and those things done. But this is happening all over the country. I'm not saying it's all right, but some people don't want it. I appreciate their opinion.
All right, you know what? I want this comment up there from Orlando again. Miami owner built his fortune on tax money. Yeah. Okay, we all know about the Jeffrey Lurie. If that wasn't a police job, I don't know what it was. So we won't go there, but yeah, I'm with you there, Orlando. I know about the situation all too well. All right, Candy, go ahead.
There are a lot of people out there, like George said, that are very opposed to taxpayer money going for stadiums. Because let's face it, who gets rich? Who profits that? But think about that. Who profits it? Yes, an owner profits it. But how many people are coming into that stadium? How many people are staying at hotels? How many people are going to restaurants around the stadium? Especially if you're out of town, you're going to stay in a hotel. You might fly into the city. You might rent a car. You're going to eat someplace. It also brings in revenue for that city.
Yep.
So you have to remember that. So if you're going to vote that you don't want that revenue. Now that revenue helps pay, depending on what state, what city you are in, it could pay for roads, it could pay for your government, it could pay for a lot of different things. And you have to remember that. So yes, some tax money can be used for that. There are places, Buffalo's governor never put it to his constituents. $850 million handout was negotiated by the governor in secret. Nashville, $1.3 billion stadium subsidy was approved by the mayor and Metro Council, not by voters. So you live in a place that they proposed it to you and you rejected it. Well, then don't be upset if they do move it and you lose some of that money, because you might be benefiting some taxpayer of your property taxes or something that you might have be getting a discount because of it. And now you're not going to if they move. Just remember that. I will never forget when Milwaukee decided to build what was Miller Park, American Family Fields now, with the roof, and how expensive that was. There were a lot of people that did not want funding from the government. They didn't want city, they didn't want tax dollars going to it. It was voted upon. They voted for it. They then had a recall of the people that voted for it, and one of the congressmen lost his job. But for Milwaukee, that was the best decision, because let's face it, they are always guaranteed a game no matter what day of the week they're playing. It doesn't matter if it's the end of March and it's snowing and 28 degrees outside, they will have baseball. And I can remember different events, sporting events that weren't even the Brewers involved, because stadiums in other towns couldn't have games and they brought the game to Miller Park. So if you don't want property tax relief or any of those, depending on how they put the tax money into it, is it a sales tax? Miller Park, for years after that, they gave special weekends where you got a discount if you lived in one of those towns that had the extra sales tax, so you could get discounts on tickets. And it was a fun little promotion. Milwaukee should be seducing the Packers right now. The problem with Milwaukee used to host a couple of games each year in the old county stadium. Miller Park was not built for a football regulation, so they can't have a football game in there that I know of. But Lambeau Field it's iconic. It's not going to move. Like, Milwaukee's just not going to, and they can't support two NFL football teams in that area. So Milwaukee will not get that back. They have a Milwaukee season ticket package for those that had those tickets. And I believe it's 4 games their home season that the Milwaukee ticket holders still get rights to see Lambeau for the Orlando. So
okay, let me add something real quickly. When the Lions left the Pontiac Silverdome, Pontiac made a huge mistake because the amount of money that was pouring into the Pontiac Silverdome was ridiculous. And what they ended up doing, tearing it down, and it went under. I think that's the biggest mistake Pontiac's ever made. All the Fords wanted to do was renegotiate the lease. Pontiac got bullheaded thinking they didn't do it. They went downtown. It's worked out well for them. All right, let's go to Rhonda, who's talking about OJ. I think it's a really good comment. Okay, so OJ goes to hell knowing that he killed 2 people and got away with house sick. Well, you know what? You're going to have a lot of people out there that agree with Rhonda that that's exactly what happened. So, that's just, you're going to have all kinds of things along those lines that feel about what he went ahead and did. So, but that said, the Kansas City situation is going to get solved. It's just going to get solved in Kansas and not Missouri. That's all. You have the Jayhawks nearby. So we'll see. I can't see where else they would go anyhow. They have established fan base anyhow. So just one side of it's just a matter of a few miles away. Jeremy, what else you want to add before we call it a night?
We're exactly right about talking about the Pontiac Silverdome. It also raised the property taxes for a lot of businesses, and a lot of small businesses vacated Pontiac shortly there within the last 30, 40 years or 25 years that it's been.
Right.
So you look at what Pontiac was when the Silverdome was there and what it is now. The billionaires do. Wait, Ralph. When do billionaire owners start paying for it? They do pay a portion of it. How the city actually gets the money in is for what they put in. They get a percentage of the personal seat licenses for handling city business. They're seats that can't be sold anywhere. They get like a suite, and they get so many seats in the lower bowl, so many seats in the second bowl. That way, they're representatives of the city, can conduct business, to attract businessmen in there. Every professional team does this. The money that comes out of the city is probably about 20 to 30% of the actual total amount to get that percentage of personal seat license.
Right. Well, pretty much Pontiac's turned into a ghost town. That's all.
That's what I was getting.
And that's where I'm at. Okay, that's why I have all the action downtown. So with that said, I know we had 4 strong topics, a really strong chat room as well. And I want to reinforce to a lot of people that we do our best to get every single comment up there as well. And the reality of the situation is we want to make sure the comments are in sync with what we're talking about. That way we don't get too far off base. We enjoy all the input that we get here. We really do. And we're appreciative for everybody that goes in the chat room. But we want to make sure we stay on point as much as we can. There might be some shows where we have a little bit more latitude to mention certain things, but a lot of our goal here is to educate and inform and entertain, and that's what we're here to do. And we want to thank everybody for joining us tonight on Pundits. So with that said, okay, Jeremy, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
Well, you can find me right here on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel on Tuesdays with Inside the Pigskin, occasionally here Thursdays with Pundits, and also on Fire Up. and pretty soon the professor and the pupil.
Right.
And then you got my channel, which is Kneecap Biting with the Motor City Lions, where I'm live every day, Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to noon. And I also have 3 primetime shows at 9 p.m. on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Okay, well done, Jeremy. All right, Denzel.
All right, Denzel Sniper 13 on Twitch, Denzel Snipes on YouTube, Denzel Snipes on Facebook. Also, tune in to the Gauntlet tomorrow. We will be having another NFC East team preview, more likely the New York Giants, or it could be the Washington Commanders. You never know. I'll be sending the link out and everything that'll have the synopsis and everything. And with that being said, Top Rope Talk Mondays, also Confidential, just kicked off its third season. That is Wednesdays on Sideline Sports, and also Sports Business Insider, which is on Sideline Sports as well. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is Confidential. 8:30 is Sports Business Insider.
All right, turn over to George and Candy will wrap it up.
Yep. You can find me on the South Florida Tribune channel as well, under the Motor City Tribune. And also I have at the end of my columns a little tag to, there's the book. Thank you, Candy. Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. And lots of great pictures. So great broadcast history in Detroit, especially with our friend Ernie Harwell. And Scott and I were privileged to know Ernie, first name, first basis. So you can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com. You can also reach me on X, on Twitter at SanGSports99. And I'm happy to be part of 108 Stitches and the Sports Exchange and Pundits Pundit, all these wonderful shows on the South Florida Tribune channel. So thank you all.
And Orlando Scribner, I just noticed you mentioned Auburn Hills. Yeah, again, they're both white-collar towns with Auburn Hills technology and Pontiac Blue that. So, Rodney, thanks for putting that up there as well. And yeah, Rodney, I'm disappointed the Palace got torn down, and of course, I lived at the Silverdome. So, with that said, okay, Candy, go ahead.
If you see that red subscribe button, hit it, like us, and share. Tell everybody about it. Tell everybody about Sideline and Jeremy's Kneecap Biting. Support all of our great panelists here and every night, because we have different panelists on different nights. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. See the writings of some of the people on the panel and my pictures. Who wouldn't want to see those, right? I mean, come on, let's face it. We're all picture people, right? Okay, but if you want to advertise or sponsor this show, call Scott. 954-304-4941. Listen to the audio version whenever you're driving or, don't want to see our faces. iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, Spotify, Castbox, Deezer, Spreaker, wherever you get your podcasts, go for it. But then also go to Amazon or Kindle or Barnes & Noble and go out and buy this book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. George wrote the foreword. Scott wrote the book. I actually edited it. Well, a little bit. And look at all these people have, but go out and buy it.
It's a good read.
It is, isn't it? What else? I think I hit, Monday nights, baseball, 108 Stitches baseball talk. Tuesday nights, Inside the Pigskin. Wednesday nights, Motor City Mad Mouse Show and Sports Exchange. Thursday nights is Pundits Pundit. Fire up. And, never know. I'm not sure where professor and pupil will end up, but stay tuned for more details. Anything else, Scott? Wait, one more thing. And I don't know how I forgot this. Tuesday nights, 7:30. You want to see an all-female show? Come over and see 3 Chicks in a Pod or Chicks in Salsa. We talk sports. Tuesday nights, 7:30. Don't miss it.
Well, Candy, the only thing you forgot to do is what's going on after us. Fire up. You're hosting it.
Me and Jeremy.
Both of you.
I do want to give an update real quick. Right now, it's 5-5. Pittsburgh versus the Red Wings in overtime. This has playoff implications, people, in hockey.
Okay, go ahead. But what's going on with your show, Jeremy?
We're going to be talking sports. That's a sports show. We love sports.
Boy, I'll tell you what, my cat Bucky and Boots could have figured that one out. Okay. Anybody else want to add a little more specifics, or just going to wait till you log on and let them know what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Well, we always have my favorite part of it, that part that I created. It's called My Town, so you never know what we're gonna talk about in my town.
All right. Well, with that said, that concludes this edition of Pundits Pundit. My name is Scott Morgan, Rock Motor City Man. Now, thanking my crew, Smoking Jeremy, George Eichhorn, Denzel Snipes, and of course, Candy. So, meanwhile, hope everybody has a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Good night, everybody. Fire Up is next.
Denzel said he had to